What's up, Model FAs? David DeCelle here, CEO of Model FA and your host of the Model FA podcast. And I am very excited today to bring to you Andrea Schlapia. She is a certified EOS implementer. And Andrea and I go way back. We first connected a while ago, I believe. You were on the podcast one time before, and since then, you've really gone deep on the EOS side of things, in which I'm a big believer in myself for advisors and really any company. But with that said, Andrea, welcome to the show.
David, thank you so much. I mean, it was pre-2020 that you and I got to hang out. So it's been a while that we have been in each other's network and working for the betterment of the advisor community. So thank you for having me today. I
I
appreciate it.
can't I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a breath.
And for those of you listening in, if I sound different, it's because I have a man cold at the moment, but the show must go on. But Andrea, give us a sense for those who are listening that maybe didn't listen, 5 or 6 years ago when we, first connected. Give us a sense of your background.
Absolutely. The bullet pointed quick story is I've been in the financial industry a little over 25 years. It's frightening to start to be one of the older people in the room. So that just is a fact these days. But I started as a financial advisor and had the opportunity to sit in the seats that your audience sits in. But my mentor gave me the opportunity to start training advisors that shifted my entire career to coaching and development and practice management. And when the wholesaler brings the value add person in with those mutual fund firms, I worked at Dreyfus and Prudential and DWS Investments. So I got to see every type of firm, corner office, not corner office, independents, wires, banks, insurance, all of the like. But those value add jobs are not cool in 2002 and 2008 in down markets. So I got laid off twice by the same
Hmm.
human. It was Groundhog's Day. So I love what I do. And that just shifted my mindset to say, you know what, it's my opportunity to launch my own company. So in 2008, I started my own business, Ironstone Business Coaching, and have the privilege to still be around in 2025. And ironically, in 2008 is when the book Traction came out. I know we're talking things all EOS today, which is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, but everything's orange in my world these days. Um, and 2008 is when the book came out, and I ignored it for 2 years. So I can speak from my own experience of running my own company, ignoring Traction and EOS for 2 years before I really started doing anything with it. So I'm excited to share the things not to do today, as well as the things I want to challenge your audience to do.
So, how did Ironstone get started? So, if you sort of had EOS to the side for a couple years,
Mhm.
like what did you focus on in helping advisors to begin with? And then when was that inflection point to where, for lack of a better way to put it, it seems like you've gone all in on EOS and holding yourself out as an EOS implementer. So it seems to me from the outside looking in, Ironstone has had a couple different forms to it, at
Mhm.
least. So walk us through that transformation.
Absolutely. So I created our own proprietary EOS, if you will. It's called the Fundamental Four: strategic planning, business development, operational effectiveness, and the human element. And we do business health checks for advisory firms to help them see where the gaps are and a roadmap to move forward, like how to move forward. All of those things still exist. But you know what? EOS made a huge difference in my own business starting 2010 is really when I started reading the book, and being able to recognize the tools to help get the vision out of my head, because that's the pain points for business owners are typically feeling out of control. You aren't hitting the profit margins you want. You don't have the right people in the right seats. You're hitting the ceiling. You're frustrated. You have 2 a.m. wake up moments. All of those things I experienced personally. And then I decided to read the book that I just put on the shelf. I call it shelf help. When you don't read the book,
I like
it
that.
is called shelf help.
That's
So
great.
read the book, and it's the reference guide. Genuinely, if you read it, you could self-implement. There's a difference between obviously self-implementation and working with somebody that knows all of the ins and outs of EOS. But bottom line, it's to help you get the vision out of your head, get everybody going in the same direction, because we're all balls of energy. Now it's just like, let's get them in formation, right? When you have butterflies in your stomach, like just get your butterflies flying in formation. Same thing. Get the vision out of your head, everybody on the same page, and ultimately get execution on that vision so that you have accountability and you get that traction and get everything that you want from your business. And most of the time, leadership teams are not healthy. And your number one advantage is organizational health. That truly is what this is about, to not have those 2 a.m. wake up moments, because leadership doesn't necessarily play well together. So part of this is helping you to be vulnerable, open, honest, so that you become that healthy leadership team. And as a leadership team goes, the rest of the team will go. So I experienced all of those things of creating something great, but creating something even better using that foundation of EOS and implementing. And, I can keep going, but you tell me where you want to go, David, because
Yeah,
I
so
love this stuff.
to continue laying the groundwork, let's try to define within the financial planning industry what sort of firms it makes sense to implement EOS, ranging from, a solo practice with, maybe a staff member, or just maybe a solo practice, right? Just one guy or gal, all the way up to, a 10, 20, $40 billion firm. Like,
Mhm.
where does it make sense to implement EOS?
I'm going to answer it in two different ways. One, again, if you just read the book and you're a solo practitioner and a one person, you and your client service person, read the book, you're going to take away awesome tools and resources no matter what. When do you actually start functioning on this actual operating system? Because EOS is Entrepreneurial Operating System, but it is a business operating system where we find around the sweet spot for advisory firms is 500, and up. The billion-dollar firm, without question, but 500, 750 and up is really where that sweet spot is, because you started the firm, all of a sudden you got successful as that solopreneur, and now there's complexity. So if you are feeling the pain of complexity, this may be exactly what you want.
So a firm that I've worked with for a few years, one of the, how should I put this? Benefits and also drawbacks with the founder is he is thirsty for knowledge. He always comes across great ideas. And what he does is he is not shy to share those ideas with his team. And oftentimes the team will take that excitement and translate it as, okay, we have a new project to work on, in which the project wasn't actually assigned. It was just excitement shared by that.
Ideation, right?
Exactly. So they think they're doing a good job by going and like starting to put that in motion. And then the founder comes back and has another idea that's contradictory to the idea that they're in the midst of working on. And over time and time again, the team members can feel deflated because they have a bunch of projects that are half done that are stopped because there's a different idea. Does EOS help in solving for that to ensure that you have, okay, here are the 5 ideas that are currently, in your mind. Like, where do you start with? Like, how do you mitigate against the risk of the team feeling deflated because the founder changes their mind based on the new idea of the day?
That is a perfect and absolute description of reality. So that's the, founder principal going to a conference, and here's the flavor of the, month, year, quarter, whatever it might be, because one of their peers is doing it. You just put this into the space of the issues list of inside of EOS. And that is a parking lot for ideas, not just things that are broken. And there are 6 key components. Issues is just one of them. And really it's an opportunity and solving issues once and for all to determine when are we going to do that initiative. So if I looked at all the 6 key components, I'll just rattle those off of vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction. And the ultimate goal is to get 80% strong in each of those areas. So when ideas come, we can put those on the issues list. And then there's this thing called a level 10. It's your weekly meeting. And we actually identify what the issue is, discuss what it is, and solve it once and for all. And so then we can put it in the appropriate compartment, if you will, to say, hey, is this the initiative we're actually working on this 90 days? Nope, it's a long-term issue. So we're going to put it in that parking lot and we're not going to deal with it right now. And so that's part of the conversation. And it's healthy, open, honest, vulnerable too, to be able to say, business owner, is that really right for right now? Or it sounds like an interesting idea. Let's keep your ideas generating, but let's put them in the appropriate spot. So I want to challenge to think issues list equals a parking lot.
That's interesting because I've read Traction a handful of times and you just taught me something new. I always assumed that the issue list was filled with issues based on
Broken
the
stuff.
title, but it can also be a list to evaluate the what's the word I'm looking for? Legitimacy maybe of the idea at hand.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, let's take technology just as a real world, like, ooh, this new CRM system, and one of my peers is using it. Or how about AI, right? AI is the hot topic. So how are we going to use it? I don't know yet, but let's put it on the issues list and let's now identify, discuss, and solve that particular thing so that we can actually figure out what we're going to do with it. So again, parking lot, not just broken stuff, ideas, opportunities, potentials. Yes, broken stuff too.
So I want to pull us back to sort of the 30,000 foot view of EOS. Can you verbally go through like the framework and the structure of EOS for those who haven't come across it yet?
Absolutely. So the process or the actual six key components, David, I want to make sure which one you want to touch on
The
because
yeah,
go both directions.
the process. So when I say process, I'm talking about like what does that cadence look like,
Mhm.
at the beginning of the year, and you mentioned level 10 meetings every week. Like that's what I'm
Mhm.
looking for is that
Absolutely.
framework.
Absolutely. If you're working with an implementer, what I always want to offer all your listeners, we start with a 90-minute meeting. It is the movie version of EOS to even help you to think about, is this something that you actually want to implement? Does it feel right for you? And have a better understanding. So that 90-minute meeting is absolutely complimentary just to give you, again, the movie version of Traction to help you better understand all the components of it. If you say, you know what, yeah, let's go with this, we have what's called a focus day. And this is a full 7 hour plus or minus day. We pull the leadership team out, and leadership team is anywhere from 2 to 7 people. So I have teams that I work with that are $1 billion firms, and it's still 2 people in the room. So I don't want you to think about, oh, it's the $1 billion I have to fill all 7 seats. I want to make sure the right people are on the leadership team. So through that process, these are full EOS session days. We're out of your office so that you can disengage from the actual in the business mindset. We can do it virtually. I can show up in your world, but more often we're doing this virtually, just like you and I are today. This thing behind me is called a vibe board. It's a giant iPad. So we're whiteboarding just like as if we were in the actual room together. Again, 7 plus or minus hours in each EOS session day. The focus day, we work on getting the right people in the right seats, and accountability chart, and thinking about what those 90-day initiatives are, and something that's called a scorecard of like, what are you going to measure and monitor every single week? I get out of the way for 30 days and we come back and have a second vision building day, get out of the way 30 days, a third vision building day. So there's 3 sessions right off the bat, 30 days apart. And then we get into what's called a 90-day world. So I show up in your world every single quarter to pull the leadership team out of the weeds and to focus on all of these different tools. So, bottom line, there's 20 tools in the whole EOS toolbox that I'm helping teach, facilitate, coach you so that you can go spread your wings and fly. And I get out of your way and support you to implement all of those things as a healthy, cohesive leadership team. So, what does it look like time wise? It's typically about 24 months to learn all the 20 tools. And then I can stay in that 90-day world as long as you want to facilitate, coach, teach. And then we have a 2-day annual to get you out of the weeds. 2-day because the first day is all about health and vulnerability. If you have not read Five Dysfunctions of a Team, you see how much I love this because look at the damage of this cover of this book. Anything Patrick Lencioni is amazing, but we work on team health and vulnerability, open, honest communication, and how you do that within your team. And then we set the pace of what does it look like for the next 10 years, 3 years, 1 year, and 90-day. So there's a quick snapshot, and I am happy to share any graphics with you and your audience so that you can see the process and see where you're at in the map.
So one thing that you said that I think is critical and often overlooked is when you have these vision building days and probably even the uh, sessions every 90 days, you're taking them out of the
Correct.
office. Can you
Yes.
speak to that in terms of the importance of actually doing that? Because I feel like that's something that's commonly overlooked where, I've gone out for our workshops, not EOS specific, but just workshops in general. And typically we're in their conference room with the appropriate stakeholders. So I'm curious to know how you articulate the value of getting out of the office as opposed to just using the conference room.
So I want you to think about being on a dance floor, if you will, and all of the activity and the stimulation there is. That's the same thing as being in your office. So when you come off of the dance floor and step onto the balcony, you are less distracted, but you can see all the moving parts and what's going on. So let's get off of the dance floor, come out of your office, get in the balcony so that you can hover above and look at what your business is as a whole. If you stay in the conference room, guess what? Somebody's going to knock on the door. You're going to go back to your office. You're going to read an email. Somebody's going to walk into your office. You're going to come back late to the whole session. So it's mentally disengaging from the busyness and the dance floor of being in your office to being able to step onto the balcony and to look and hover above and to look at the business more holistic, clinically, and to be able to see all the parts without all the distraction. That is why it is absolutely critical. So whether you're all physically in the same room and outside of your office, not in your own conference room, or we're virtual, if it's virtual, everybody's still in their own home office so that you are not in your office virtually. So either way, you're not in your own business address location is critical.
What are some of the, I guess, objections that you hear from firms like at the onset of, I'm thinking out loud, but I'm sure there's things like, oh no, I feel like, we push our initiatives forward or, we have a really good team that gets their stuff done. Like, what's some of the objections that you've received? And what do you find to be the truth if you have the opportunity to peel back the onion a little bit?
That is a fantastic question. And the number one thing is this is so active. I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do in my, owner space, and I'm going to be held back from. And so that right off the bat, I want to give you some peace of mind that structure and discipline actually set you free as the business owner because you won't have those 2 a.m. wake up moments because you actually know how everything is running. Most of the time, multiple visionaries or multiple business owners, I should say, we all have a different answer. I just talked to somebody yesterday on a team, and she said, we have 10 people on the leadership team, and every single one has a different idea of where we're going. If that's just 10 people on the leadership team, think about the people outside of that room, how many different versions there are. So if we can get everyone on the same page with the vision, we get the right people in the right seats. I think that is the probably the number one challenge is our people element of does everybody really know what their role and responsibility is? Or are there multiple people that think, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this task, or you're supposed to be doing this task, and then nobody does the task? So if multiple people are sitting in a single seat, nobody really knows from the accountability. So just rate your people issues. Are they 100% strong? How about the data component? Do you know what the reps are in the gym, right? Like how many reps in the gym are you doing? That's what your scorecard is, or your key performance indicators, OKRs, which are objective and key results. If you don't have that measure, then we are measuring the business probably more on emotion than actual data.
I'm hearing you say, let's say there's 10 people on the leadership team, they all have different visions. And if you can imagine that, imagine what everyone else in the organization, is thinking or doing or not doing, that maybe is not in alignment with what the vision actually is. So I guess my question is, when, if at all, does it make sense to pull in people beyond, in that example, like the 10 folks on the leadership team, down to sort of all the way to the secretary or the CSA style person? Like, does it
Mhm.
ever make sense to pull those types of folks into any of these sessions?
Not into the leadership session, but I will say between each of those EOS sessions that we have with leadership team, the objective is to have what's called a state of the company so that the leadership team is literally communicating all of the things about EOS, where we've been, where we're currently at, where we are going, what the initiatives are. So we're rolling out. It's not like this secret club. That's what I think one of the challenges or the misunderstandings of EOS is. We merely start with the leadership team. We don't exclusively keep it there. We roll it out through the entire company, clear down to client service. So, state of the company shares all of the things that the leadership team has decided. But now the leadership team is one voice, one vision, one team, and we're rolling that out in addition to between those quarterly leadership team meetings. Not only the state of the company is having happening, but we're having quarterly conversations with individual team members as a part of that process so that they're utilizing those same exact tools, same language. What are your rocks? Remember, rocks are those 90-day initiatives. So we're getting into using that muscle with the whole entire group. Another book I love besides Traction is called What the Heck is EOS? It is the book that's written for the team member. So I don't want to call it Cliff Notes, but yet I am going to kind of call it Cliff Notes. And the other reason I love What the Heck is EOS is at the end of every chapter, there are questions that says, hey, if your manager has not asked you X, ask them these questions. And it breaks it down into, again, those 6 components of vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction for you to digest all of it.
I can't believe I've never, because I was like, oh, this must have just came out. I haven't heard of it. And I looked and it was published back in 2017. I've never heard of what the heck is
Yeah,
EOS, and I think that that's great because you said basically it's for the employees of the company that
correct.
are on the receiving end of
Correct.
EOS.
It's easier to digest. So I would say everybody needs to read it. But again, this is, and then you can see the love, how I've my, tabs and everything. But again, it has it's bigger font and it's 166 pages versus Traction, smaller font, just to give you, and 250 pages. So this is a great one for everybody, but especially for team members. This is part of what we talk about when we talk rollout with leadership team members. Say, are you ready to roll it out to everybody? Here's a resource to help get them into the EOS fold.
Gotcha. Yeah, I in the midst of purchasing it right now on Amazon. I like to do this immediately. It'll be here
Well, guess
tomorrow.
what? I'll do you one even better. So what I will send to you is we've created ultimately summaries, executive summaries of the books, and that is based upon requests from all the teams that we work with because we know that time is a commodity, even though it's 166 big font. I have a summary of this and it digests in a one pager. I think it's like 4 pages, but a one pager with all the questions at the end of each chapter on one page so that it can be visually easy to digest. And then, really, back to your question of like, hey, what are the objections? Looking at the questions from this book, you're going to go, yeah, we don't have clarity on the vision, or yeah, we don't have all the right people in the right seats. And how would you rate the quality of your meetings? If you guys hate meetings, maybe just not having the right kind of meeting. And that's what a level 10 is all about, is getting a check-in in each of these areas and solving issues once and for all.
Love it. Um, can you speak to, I'd love to hear sort of like from your perspective and your experience, before we start to wrap up of, hey, I came into this company, it was, XYZ size. Here's some of the things that they were struggling with. They've been implementing EOS for a year or two or three, whatever sort of time frame. And here's what it looks like now. I want to give the listeners a sense of what the transformation could be that they can expect. Can you
Mhm.
speak to a case study?
Absolutely. I can say this is a $500 million firm that went to $1 billion firm. The business owner actually is letting go and letting people shine in their space. They have more clarity and focus and not scattered because they again have the vision, the people, the data, the issues, the process, the traction. Everything has a compartment. Everyone knows what their role and responsibility is. So guess what? Accountability is at an all-time high and people are crushing it in a fun way, not, it doesn't feel micromanaged. It feels, I know what my rocks are for the next 90 days. I know how to win. I know the definition of what winning means. There is a higher rate of problem solving because now we have a way to identify the actual issues and solve them once and for all, get the right people in the right seats. We have the data that we actually want to track. That is what changed a $500 million firm to the $1 billion firm. They have lower overhead. They have the right people in the right seats. They're measuring the right stuff. They have clarity of roles and responsibilities. They're solving issues. And guess what? Their organizational health is at an all-time high because they're able to have the hard conversations in a vulnerable, open, honest way. So they step into conflict in a healthy way. If we never have conflict during our meetings, then we're not having great meetings.
Mm.
Conflict is about talking about the hard stuff, step into the danger, figure it out, and moving on so that you get the results you want. So, lower overhead, higher AUM, higher revenue. The client experience is at an all-time high. The team is running on an all-time high of productivity, of clarity, lack of confusion. And guess what? Work-life balance is even better because everybody knows what everybody's doing.
You said something earlier, and you just said something that made me think of it and remind me of it. You had said something to the effect of how like discipline and structure, organization um, creates freedom.
Yes,
And I can attest to that. I mean, most people, when they look at my calendar, they want to throw up, but it has like what time I wake up, when do I shower, when do I eat, when do I unwind, when is there flexible time, right? When is there, meeting time? Like everything to a T is in there, and I can speak to that where I just have to show up to whatever that next thing is. I don't need to think about what I'm doing next, and I would imagine it's similar with the EOS process in that you just find yourself every quarter, every week moving the ball forward. You fast forward a year and you never really felt that transition, but you look back and realize that you changed a lot and your business changed a lot, but it never felt like a huge undertaking because you're just taking, one bite of the elephant, so to speak, every single week in alignment with those quarterly rocks. So I
you
don't know.
got it.
Yeah, I don't really know if there's a question there, but that's the
But that's the
assumption that I have.
realization. That's the realization of what can happen when you actually have more structure and discipline. It feels restrictive until you try it. So the understanding of all of these disciplines, unless you try it, then you're never going to know. You can always go back to the what you were doing before, but take a piece of this. There's nothing else. Have your weekly meetings every single week, the same time, the same agenda, so that you have that repeated opportunity to have a check-in point. That is one of the things that I find. The people that I just talked to, again, another advisor said, we're not doing our level 10s. I'm like, well, wait, why not? Like, that's part of the process. And they're feeling scattered. They're frustrated. They're irritated with each other. And guess what? It's because you haven't built the muscle yet to commit to that weekly meeting where you can check in to say, are we on or off track with the scorecard? Are we on or off track with the rocks? What are our absolute headlines that we need to know about? And a place to identify, discuss, and solve the issues every single week. So this is a wash, rinse, and repeat. Wash, rinse, and repeat. And you know what? Simple as it is not easy to implement. Why people love it is the simplicity. Remember, it's to get 80% strong in vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction. If you don't feel like you're strong in those areas, pick the area that you want to focus on and do that for 90 days.
One last question that I thought about regarding EOS. Do you find or recommend that people are compensated for following through on their quarterly rocks in some sort of incentive structure, or is it the expectation that no, this is part of your job? How do is there any financial incentive that you've seen firms roll out to really get buy-in into EOS?
Yes, and yes, and dot, dot, dot. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's critical to get clarity on what the role expectation without the rock incentive is the first step. Because if you're not even clear on what the seat that you're sitting in is required to do, then adding in a rock and an initiative on top of that makes it very muddy, if you will, to say, well, is this my regular job or is this like an extra thing? So get clear on what the seat is that each person has. That's what's called the accountability chart in this. And then what is going to move the needle above and beyond the everyday regular expectation that you have? Some people add incentive on it, some people do not. It is really a preference, but that's also part of the collaboration during those leadership team meetings of implementation to say, what's the best path forward? Because there's no wrong answer.
Love it. Now, one of the questions I ask all of our guests is a book that has an impact on them. So to know, surprise, the book that you chose is Traction. I'm curious because you sort of throughout today's podcast has you've shared sort of the impact of that book that it's had on your business and the advisors and folks that you serve in their business. But I'm curious to know less about your takeaways from the book since you hit on a lot of those and more what got you to finally sort of take it off the shelf, so to speak, and actually read it because it was it had been published for a couple of years. There was a little resistance on your end. What got you over the fence?
Because I thought I had it all together and I knew what I was doing and how to run a business. And then I realized it was a poop show and I could do so much better. And once I read it, it compartmentalized it for me in my brain of how to run the business in a healthy, productive, clear way that I didn't have to figure out.
Mm.
It's already there. So not cussing, hence the poop show. But if that feels like you and you're out of control and you're hitting the ceiling and nothing feels like it's working, that's why I read the book. And it made all the difference.
Awesome.
So I'm not just an implementer. I actually run on this myself for my own business. And that is why I'm wildly passionate about it because I know what it can do for you.
And you got to practice, what you preach. So it's good to, be able to share your perspective of any resistance that you felt as you were rolling it out or any issues that you came up with and be able to, speak to those with your clients with firsthand, experience. So that's super valuable. And it's always nice to hear when a coach and consultant is coaching and consulting themselves on the same thing that they're coaching and consulting others on as well.
Just know everything I'm saying out loud to you is I'm really saying it, just pointing it back to myself. I'm
Mm,
like, are you 80% strong in this? Absolutely not. Like, could you be better? Does everybody know what they're doing? Do we have great meetings? No, 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 no. So if you feel like, that is you, then it's impactful. So read the book. I'm happy to do a 90-minute meeting for anybody that's curious, because that is just me giving you the 90-minute Cliff Note movie version, because I'm passionate about this and I know what it can do, and you'll take away a lot.
love it. Well, speaking of that, Andrea, if people want to take you up on that offer, if people want to connect with you, follow along with what you have doing, where's the best place or places for them to go?
You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find me at my email address, Andrea at ironstonehq.com. You can call us, you can email us, LinkedIn. Denise Wiseman Dennis is my right arm integrator. So she is at the ready to help. And we just look forward to seeing in our calendar so that we can share all the awesome stuff EOS can do for you guys.
Awesome. Well, Andrea, I appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone tuning in, your time and attention. I appreciate you listening to my slightly nasally voice on today's episode, and we will catch you on the next show. But Andrea, thanks again for joining.
David, it was fun. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Take care.